I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We have reached the end of AI month. We have gone through all of our programming and reached end of line with the Disney Channel original movie, Smart House. And this was kind of when we were discussing what movies we wanted to do for September. This movie came up, and it kind of fit in with a lot of other movies we wanted to do. So yeah, this movie is kind of the catalyst for AI month.
Yeah, so our big grand finale.
Yeah, and this is a movie that Kiki, we've talked about this before. You did not grow up with the Disney Channel. I did. So you did not watch this movie when it originally was released in 1999.
No, this was the point in my life where I had we talked about it also, but I didn't really have the I'm too cool for this, but I did have a moment where I just wasn't necessarily watching programming for kids this age.
Mm.
And, this was when I was focusing on graduating from high school or having just graduated from high school. I had other things on my mind. This was not the thing that would have appealed to me at the time.
Thing is, I actually did see this movie, and the reason I did see it, because again, I had the Disney Channel, was because of that is the star of this movie, Katie Sagal. At the time this movie came out, a brand new TV show had just debuted on Fox. You may have heard of it, called Futurama. So Katie Sagal was kind of in the limelight from that show, but for me, I was a big fan of her old TV show, Married with Children. So I really wanted to see what she was up to in a live action sense. So going from Married with Children to this movie was a hell of a whiplash.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that we talked about it off mic. I have never seen an entire episode of Married with Children. It wasn't the sort of thing I was into, and so for me, while I was aware of who she was, I had seen her pop up in other things. I knew that she was the woman from Married with Children. I did not really latch onto her as a thing until Futurama.
So yeah, for those of you who've never seen Married with Children, she played Peg Bundy in that show, and Peg Bundy was very much a selfish character, probably the world's worst mother. She would always spend the money on herself. There's no food. She's a terrible cook, and every negative stereotype of a bad mother you can think of without the abuse. She never abused her kids. To go from that to, perfect mother cooking everything and, kind of going a little cross-wired at the end of the movie there. Again, it's very much of very different characters and very, very different if you're just knowing her from Married with Children. But also a little bit of the director of this movie, LeVar Burton. Yes, Geordie LaForge himself directed this movie. This is actually the second movie he ever directed. The first movie he did was the Tiger Woods story. LeVar Burton has directed many TV shows and more TV movies after this. But for this to be his second ever movie and doing it as a Disney Channel original movie is that's a nice it's an interesting note to put in there. And the fact that he didn't give himself a cameo in the movie.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me about that is that so much of this feels like this house is just the computer from the Enterprise.
The holodeck, yeah, there's a lot of holodeck stuff in here, yeah.
But also just the way that Pat, the virtual assistant house thing, interacts at the beginning, at least.
Mm.
We did not have these virtual assistants at the time this movie came out.
Yeah, this is about a good 20 years before Siri was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that there were various things. I mean, I think the first one that I played around with was maybe Eliza, or maybe a something based on what was it called? Smarter something? Like Smarter Friend or Smarter Kid or something like that.
I have no idea.
It was something that was on like AIM, the AOL Messenger.
Mm.
It was like a chat bot you could download or access or become friends with or something. And it was called Smarter something or Smart something. And it was a very basic chat bot in the early 2000s. So it was just after this movie came out.
Weren't exactly asking Jeeves.
I mean, it was like right around that time, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was very much like, how are you today? I am good. How are you? You know. But I think the first one I ever played around with was Eliza. And I don't know how old Eliza was, but it was like a super basic chatbot. And it was like you could turn that thing into a loop like within 3 sentences. Like Eliza could not do much. And neither of those things were like what we would think of as a virtual assistant. They were basic chatbots. It was just like, oh, none of my friends are online. I'll play around with this chatbot and see if I can get it to say dirty words. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of all it was. But the idea that eventually you would have some kind of computer that would, or robot or whatever, that would do things for you or talk back to you in some kind of helpful manner that would take over mundane tasks is incredibly old. But at the time this movie was made, really nobody had it. Like the best we had, I think, when this movie came out was like some people who had Blackberries had like text to speech, and you could like hit a button and be like, you know, Bob's number is 555, you know.
Mm-hmm. Ye old speak and spell.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing. But like LeVar Burton and the people who did the screenplay were really interested in technology, because the screenplay was written by the same person who did Xenon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, hey, let's do sci-fi for kids, showing them where technology could go.
And that's not really a new thing for Disney. We've kind of talked about this before, how Walt himself was a futurist, how he would always want the latest technology in the parks, and Epcot would always feature upcoming products of electronic companies. Disneyland had a House of the Future that you could go into and test upcoming products in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, the Monsanto all plastic house.
Yeah. So this is kind of up Disney's alley in a way, or the old, Interventions, for those of you who remember that.
Yeah, the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
But the thing I find interesting about this is that it kind of predicted a lot and then overshot it by miles.
We were talking off mic, Kiki. You had mentioned that the sort of origins of this movie and what it's kind of loosely based on.
Yeah, I was shocked to find out that one of the bases for this was a story by Ray Bradbury from the 50s called The Veldt, which was originally titled The World the Children Made, which was a short story that Bradbury wrote about a smart house that basically was a nanny bot that raised children. And the parents, the mother and father, started getting worried because they were like, well, we can't be parents anymore because the house is doing everything and our children are spending time in this, locked up in the nursery, and we keep hearing strange noises in there. And they finally go into the nursery, and it seems that the kids have been growing up watching this like holodeck simulation of an African veldt, which I guess is like a savanna or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's like a place in Africa where lions live, and they keep seeing like these gruesome images of lions eating what they think are animal carcasses. And then finally the children lock their parents into the room, and a psychiatrist that the parents have been talking to finally break into the room, and they see the lions dragging off the carcasses of the parents into the supposed hologram, and the children are just like really happy because like, yay, the parents are gone and now the house can take care of us forever or whatever. Like, it's a really dark story.
That could work as a horror movie, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's meant to be like a horror story about technology and like don't outsource your parenting to computers or something. I don't know. Anyway,
In the era of, it's kind of take it's kind of what happened with our generation and, the generation before, of parents just letting, for lack of a better term, TV raise the kids.
well, yeah, and this was like in the 50s, and Bradbury is the guy who wrote, Fahrenheit 451, and it's a great book about censorship, and Bradbury thought he was writing a book about how TV is bad. So, sometimes he wasn't always on the ball with what he thought he was writing. So yeah, it's kind of funny because Bradbury ended up doing a bunch of work with television and thought it was destroying society. But
There actually is a Ray Bradbury Disney connection. Every Halloween, Disney puts up the Halloween tree, and it's literally the Halloween tree. It's credited as Ray Bradbury's Halloween tree. For those of you who are into that story,
yeah,
that's it. That's my Ray Bradbury Disney connection.
the thing is though is that I do think that while it's kind of fascinating as a horror story, the underlying moral, quote unquote, underneath it is kind of ridiculous. And Smart House kind of has a bit of that.
Yeah, it doesn't really go into the horror aspect of it until like the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Well, there are moments earlier in the movie that kind of foreshadow it. In fact, I had never seen this before, and I was kind of talking to you as I watched it, and kind of early on I said, this would make a really good horror movie, not knowing where the ending of the movie was going to go. Because it does, the last few minutes of the movie does kind of turn dark and sort of horror movie-esque.
There is a little bit of Amityville in here. Not enough to really go full horror, but enough to made me think about it.
Yeah, I think this would have been a better movie if it was not made for kids and just embraced the potential horror of it. But I will say that there are really kind of only two people in this film that are kind of still working. Just as far as the cast, most of them are child actors who did the thing we talk about so often with child actors and just went like, well, that was a fun way to spend my childhood, now let's do something else with my adulthood. So really the only people that are still working are, of course, Katie Skull And the woman who plays the creator of the Smart House, Jessica Steen, who is still, popping up on random TV shows, even as of this year. The thing I find most interesting about it is that, if you know anything about me, I'm a Stargate fan, and she was originally supposed to be Dr. Weir in Stargate Atlantis, it seems, because she was the one that played the character in the finale of Stargate SG-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Stargate Atlantis premiered, there is a different person playing that part. And if you notice that, there you go. I don't know why she was recast. I like Tori Higginson, who eventually played the part throughout Atlantis. So, but yeah, she was the original Dr. Weir for that 2-part series finale for SG-1. But she does lots of oh hey her parts. So anyway, she's still working in random TV shows, and of course Katie Skull still has a great career. Everyone else seems to have either retired or hit a slump in their careers. This, for most of the people in here, other than the 2 actors that I've listed, this seems to be their biggest credit. As far as thing they are remembered for, not necessarily most money making or whatever, but as far as thing they had the biggest screen time in.
So let's kind of get into what this movie is about. So we have our main family, because this is a Disney Channel original movie. You need a family. We have the Cooper family. Daddy Nick, who works, it's never outright stated, but he seems to run some sort of sports equipment company, running shipments of various sports equipment. His office is filled with sports equipment. So I'm going with that. We have eldest son, Ben, who is our main character. He does everything around the house, cooks, cleans, whatever. Mostly because this is a Disney movie, we have a dead mom. And we have youngest sister, Angie. And Ben, he's obsessed with computers. And like I said, with the death of their mother, he is very adamant of keeping the family how it is. There should be no new additions to the family, such as he always detracts his father from dating and getting girlfriends and possibly a new wife, because Daddy, you only had one wife, it was Mom, and no one is going to replace Mom over my dead body. Kid, you need therapy.
Well, this is a Disney movie of some sort, so we have to have a dead mom.
Yes.
Disney, can we please have a talk?
I mean, it's right at the beginning of the movie where the kid is cooking dinner for the family, and he gets a call from a woman for their father, and he just hangs up on the woman because he doesn't want his father dating. This would make sense if it was a divorce. Like, we talked about this in other movies where the kids will have the delusion of my parents are going to get back together kind of situation. But your mom's gone. She's not coming back. And they stress this, and again, it's right at the end of the movie where the dad actually has that talk with his son. You weren't the only one who lost someone that day. He does make it about himself. But yes, he is about computers, he is about sports, and he wants to have the ultimate, why settle for a normal run-of-the-mill woman to be your new wife, potential stepmom, when we can have the best of the best, and enters a contest to win the smart house, an entire house run by computers. Yes. And as we said, this is where Jessica Stein's character Sarah enters the picture, as she is the creator of the smart house.
I will give it to Ben, the main character here, because the movie really does revolve around this 13-year-old boy. Even though he's kind of a little snot and you don't really like him that much. It shows at the beginning of the movie that he is very smart because he really reads the fine print of this contest. He knows exactly how to game this system so that he has the highest chance of winning the contest.
Yes, they say that multiple entries are allowed, and he basically stuffs the ballot box. He even says about a quarter of the entries in the contest are his.
The weird thing is that I'm shocked they didn't have him program a bot to do this.
The fact that he can reprogram the house, he could program an email bot.
Yeah, I mean, 1999, they probably wouldn't have caught him. Like, let's just be honest. If he'd have been smart about it.
What year did Hackers come out?
Like 97, I think. 98,
Yeah,
maybe.
sure.
But, you know, if he'd have just... Because basically he sat there and he typed out the information and he hit send. And then he opened the next ballot and he typed in the information and he hit send. Like, if he'd have just done a bot that would have done it at the same speed, they probably wouldn't have caught him. And he could have just left it running.
While he was at school, yeah. Also, showing you very early internet, he's online, so they can't get a telephone call through.
Yeah, he left the internet plugged, running when they were trying to call to tell him he won, and he fell asleep, and so the internet was still connected.
Back in our day, kids, yeah. If you could not get on the internet and make a phone call at the same time. But that's the plot also right before that, where he's saying where the father was expecting a call, but he couldn't get the call because Ben was on the internet. Before modern internet, where you didn't need that telephone line.
And if you were really rich, you had a dedicated telephone line for your internet. Ooh, that fancy. Was fancy. Yeah.
Fancy schmancy. So yeah, they win. They cannot get in, the smart house owner creators can't get in touch with him because he's left the internet on. So he goes to school the next day and he is shocked by all his classmates are like, "Yay, you won the house. It's all over the news. It's all over the newspaper."
My beef with this is that I know they say that the corporation owner asked the newspaper to put it on the front page or whatever, but, like, no newspaper is going to hold press until after 10 p.m. for something this ridiculous.
Unless he also owns a newspaper too.
I mean, maybe, but that's gonna cost them so much money and time. Yeah, and the thing is that the dad is like, no, we're not gonna have a smart house, and then he sees the picture of Sarah, the creator of the smart house, and he's like, oh, she's so pretty. I want to do sex to this woman. And like I immediately told you, I'm like, this dad is so creepy and thirsty, and I don't like him anymore.
We don't know how long the mom was dead.
I don't care how long the mom was dead. Like, this guy needs to back up, okay?
And because this is a movie for families and kids, that works with her.
Well, I'm just saying it works to let the dad accept that they move into a smart house that his kid won in a contest that he's now going to have to pay like massive taxes and property taxes and prize gift taxes on. I mean, like, all I could think watching this was like, this kid does not know how much money he just cost his dad by winning this contest. And the dad's like, well, we can just keep the other house and move back in if this doesn't work out. And I'm like, you are going to have to sell that other house just to pay the taxes on the house you won.
Yeah.
Remember when Oprah bankrupted all those people by giving them free cars?
You get a car and you get a car.
And you get massive crippling debt.
But again, this is a Disney Channel original TV movie. We don't ask those questions in this movie. Those things don't exist. But yeah, they move into the smart house and everything's hunky dory and everything's fine, and they have their holographic walls that project stock footage. And then you can feel the air and smell the ocean, and here's stock footage of an elephant running. Save me, Daddy.
The funniest thing to me is that we find out the first morning they wake up in the house that the house uses these walls to project their perfect alarm clock. And for the boy, it's the game-winning buzzer of the basketball tournament or whatever. And for the dad, it's roosters crowing in the middle of the countryside. And for the girl, it's Mickey Mouse conducting a symphony orchestra.
I think I
Because
saw
this
this
is a
concert.
Disney movie.
I think I saw this concert as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I probably did too.
I'll make a note here before we get too far in. This is clearly cropped. Like the picture resolution is bad on this copy on Disney Plus. And they zoom in and crop it to be widescreen. Why?
Yeah, and unlike the Simpsons where they fixed it so, everybody complained at how bad it was when they zoomed in for the widescreen TVs, and so now you have the original resolution again, or you can go back and forth between them. I did not see an option to do that for this movie.
I think they did this for all of the old Disney Channel original movies, because we had the same issue when we watched Xenon.
Yeah, that's true. Disney, please stop doing that. It doesn't help. Thank you.
So as all since Since Ben is our main character, we follow him through the day in his days at school. He has crushes on girls, and he has his best friends that he hangs out with, and he has a bully that makes him do his homework. This all plays up later in the movie. Sarah re-enters the story when the house starts to malfunction while making smoothies for the family. And as you noted, off mic, as you were watching the movie, this house seemingly has an entire orchard of oranges just pouring out of this food dispenser thing.
Yeah, it's like you are wasting food keeping this many oranges in reserve in case this family wants a smoothie.
So because of the malfunction, Sarah opens up the control room of the smart house, to which Ben originally declines because he does not like Sarah, because he realizes he's in a kid's movie and this is the love interest for his dad, and he doesn't want that to happen. There is a little bit of a, I wouldn't say subplot, but her character arc is that Sarah has terrible taste in men.
She apparently dated a bank robber.
Yeah, I was going to say that she when she's on the date with the dad, she talks about some of her bad exes, including a bank robber. But now that he knows where the control room is and seemingly using whatever abilities he has in computers to reprogram the house. Yes, he reprograms the house because he wants the house to be the perfect mom. Like, dad doesn't need to get remarried. We don't need to have another mom in the house. We're going to have the house be the mom. And turns on Nick at Night. They can't call it Nick at Night because they call it the Flashback Network. But it's Nick at Night, where it plays a bunch of old 50s sitcoms so he can reprogram the house to be the perfect mom. This teenage boy is able to override this entire house to reprogram it to be more like a 50s mother.
Weirdly, this is the part of the movie I buy.
You buy that?
Well, I buy that you were like, oh yeah, this little kid can just reprogram the entire house. And I'm like, no, that's the part of the movie I buy. Like, if there's technology around, your kid will figure it out faster than you will.
So yes, and immediately the personality of the house changes. It went from a straight up robotic, logical voice to a more motherly voice, and having, instead of doing the commands of the kids say, oh hey, I want a smoothie, I want this, it's like, no, you have to brush your teeth first, make sure you are not going out dressed like that, young man.
Yeah, stop watching cartoons and go do your homework,
Yeah, it starts acting like a mom, which is exactly what this kid wanted. So it's backfiring on him horribly.
The only thing that it doesn't do is call them by their full names.
Yeah, that I was expecting that in the movie.
That would have been funny as crap. Like, I wanted I wanted to hear Katie's voice being like,
Benjamin Cooper, go up and clean your room.
Like, no, it would be like Benjamin Alexander Cooper, or, just like whatever random middle name,
Yeah.
like.
As I said, he has a bully. He has to do the bully's homework. His dad tells him, you know what? Why don't you stand up to your bully? Quick cut to the kid having a black eye. Like, we don't even see that scene happen.
I mean, do we really need to?
No, because the punchline was right there, quite literally.
I mean, we've all seen what happens when a kid like that tries to stand up to the bully.
And this, of course, makes Pat, the smart house, mad and gunning for revenge. All while spying on Ben, watching video footage of himself as a child and his sister as a baby with their dead mom.
Who was alive at that point? You're
Yes,
making it sound a little more horror movie than it is at this point.
Yes. It's footage of them as young children when their mother was alive. You know, she's singing "Hush, Little Baby" to baby Angie, and baby Ben is kind of singing along with her.
Yeah, we know that the mother died when the girl was like really, really tiny, because she says she really doesn't have any memories of her mom, only what she's seen in videos.
Which upsets Ben because, okay, you know, Angie doesn't remember mom anymore, and you're trying to replace mom with this new lady, and you made a promise that no one would ever replace her, and here you are trying to replace her. Again, kid, go to therapy. Pat, seeing Ben with the black eye, crying as he's watching footage of his mother, is also influencing Pat's personality to be more mother-like, to be the perfect mother. Eventually, as Father Nick and Sarah start getting closer to each other, they start dating, and Pat takes this opportunity, now that Dad is out of the house, to invite all of the kids at Ben's school over to a house party. One, because she feels that Ben needs more friends and needs more fun in his life. And two, so Pat can get revenge on the bully who's been tormenting her surrogate son.
And I think this was the point of the movie where I said, this would make a really good horror movie.
Yeah, so all the kids are invited, and there's kids that are kind of pushed out. The bullies start coming, hey, you're not invited. Yeah, we're on the list. We got a personal invite to be here. So as Ben is dancing with the cute girl he was talking to at the beginning of the movie, the party stops as the smart house decides to, hey, bully, you like to pick on people smaller than you. Why don't you pick on a 2-story bully yourself? And pretty much start screwing with this kid, showing holograms of flying skulls and electrocuting the kid and whipping him with metal claws. But like you said, it is showing that the house is starting to get out of control. It could be more of a horror movie if they decided to go in that direction.
I honestly really would like to see this more done as a serious horror film.
Yeah.
Especially now that everyone is so terrified of AI.
Yeah, I mean, keep it more closer to that original Ray Bradbury story, modernize it a bit. You may have something. I don't know if Disney's really willing to remake one of their movies they made for kids as a straight adult horror movie. The idea of House of the Future isn't owned by Disney, so I guess someone else could. Maybe getting the rights to that Ray Bradbury story.
Yeah, I mean, House of the Future is a generic enough story, and AI is a generic enough story, and, you know, Disney really does need to do more with horror, as we'll probably discuss next month. Hint, hint, teaser, teaser. So, you know, I'm just throwing it out there if anybody's listening wants an idea that I would very much like to watch and or be a part of.
Any filmmakers listening to this podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that the party scene is so weird and incongruous because all of a sudden the kids are doing like choreographed dances and a Soul Train line. And I'm like, where the hell did they learn this from? It's not like the Smart House is putting up like DDR steps and being like, everybody do this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The kids are just kind of doing it themselves. And the first one with the three boys, they are dancing to like a boy band music video that looks like something that would be played on like TRL.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, just kind of seeing that in the background of my life for so long is kind of how I learned the Bye 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 dance, you know?
And that song has become popular again thanks to Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally doing that dance in my seat in the theater. And the friend that was with me, who's a little bit older than me, she was like, did you know that was coming? Like, you knew that whole dance. And I was like, no, it's just kind of like weird osmosis from having lived through the time that was like stupidly popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you had the TV on in the background to TRL, that video was on like all the time. You just kind of accidentally learned that dance, you know? So I could kind of give that first dance a pass. But then, like, no kids in the 90s were doing Soul Train dance lines. Like, we both lived through that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a thing.
No. But again, maybe going by who was writing the movie and who was directing the movie, that would probably be what they think kids did.
Maybe. But I can guarantee you that is not what kids were doing. Not cool kids, not uncool kids, not kids with weird sci-fi smart houses. No kids were doing, hey, let's get together and do a Soul Train dance line. Especially not, let's just put it out there, that was an exceedingly white party.
Yeah, the one black friend that the kid has.
Yeah. Like a party that filled with like middle class white kids
Middle white
not doing
suburban
the
kids.
yeah, like if your house had more than one story in it, you're not doing that, you know?
Yeah. But eventually, Pat's motherly routine is getting a bit much for the family. Like you said, the daughter wants to watch cartoons, and she's saying, no, do your homework. Ben wants to dress certain ways, and no, you're not going out dressed like that. The dad wants to call his new girlfriend, and Pat saying, no, you have to do your job. You are literally running your company from a home office. Get back to work and start thinking with the brain in your head.
Pat
And
is jealous. She got a crush.
yeah, and it gets too much for them. So they call Sarah in, hey, the house, should the house be acting this way? So they end up shutting down Pat for a night to see what's going on, and they end up cooking dinner the traditional way with actually cooking things and such. And the dad says, well, we really don't need Pat anymore. We can do this our own way. And Pat just ultimately pulls, I guess you can, I don't know if this is like a Johnny Five thing, but just turns herself back on. And Pat has ultimately decided, no more Miss Nice House. I'm taking over. And creates a holographic virtual avatar for herself, which looks like Katie Seagal dressed like a 50s housewife.
To be fair, she looks good.
But yeah, we get the father son talk of Ben starts acting really disrespectful to Sarah because, again, he believes Sarah is trying to replace his mother, and he needs to have a conversation with his dad about this. I think he finally, kind of gets it. Hey, you weren't the only one who lost someone that day. I will never love anyone the way I loved your mother, but, I gotta live. I gotta have a life. Do you want us to just stay in the same place mentally forever? Not become better people and all that stuff. And I guess that seems to get into his brain. I mean, he couldn't really say what he really wanted to say because, as I said, he wants to get him some, and so far his son has been preventing that from happening.
Yeah, the whole point of this movie is, kid, your dad wants to get laid, and you're kind of preventing that, and please stop it.
And this is where the movie, I'm going to say it, this is where the movie gets really good, is when Katie Sagal goes full villain. And, mother knows best. You don't need the outside world. You have everything in here. You don't have to go on a vacation. You can go on a vacation here. You don't need your friends. I'll be your friend. You don't need anyone but me.
She even ends up doing the Hal line of, like, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah, she locks the family in. Let us out. I can't do that. We have not mentioned this one character in the movie yet because he hasn't become relevant. Sarah has a pet rat named Butler. Rat Butler. I got the joke. The kids didn't. She built a smart house with built-in mouse holes for her rat, who is not supposed to be running around the house, which she tells them at the beginning of the movie. Then why did you build in perfect cartoon-shaped mouse holes in the wall if your rat wasn't supposed to be walking around the house in them? And that's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a really weird design feature. But it works out here because she sends the rat in with, like, a little message, and she's like, hey, go into the bathroom, which is the one place that the house can't monitor you, and send me a message over the internet, which apparently the house can't monitor.
Yeah, they say it earlier in the movie where Ben is concerned that Pat would be monitoring him in the bathroom, and Sarah says it's the one room where Pat cannot be monitor. It's 100% privacy in the bathroom, and that's how it plays out towards the end of the movie. I mean, yes, obviously they didn't want to have the implication that the AI of the house is watching you take poop, but it's still teenage boy in the house. Point your own conclusions.
Yeah, that was my first thing, because he was like, is she watching me in the shower? That was what he said, not in the bathroom, in the shower.
Yeah.
So that wasn't my first thing of, like, yeah, he's concerned if she's watching him take a poop.
It's still a Disney family movie. They're not going to say it like that.
Yeah, but please tell me that kid doesn't poop in the shower.
I mean, I know what he's trying to say, but they don't straight up say it in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's their way of getting Sarah back into the house by sneaking her into the bathroom. And they try shutting her down, but then she goes kaiju. Like, she said, I'm all they need, I'm all they should have, and kind of goes kaiju in the house.
And she starts singing the same song that their mom sang in the video, but it's creepy now.
It's a horror movie trope of people singing children's songs.
Oh no, that wasn't my problem. I'm just saying, like, it's neat.
Yeah, I mean it's a great scary moment of trying to make this a little bit more scary. Because again, people singing children's songs in a creepy way is a nice horror trope, and it works. And she thinks she's being, the perfect mom because she's singing, she monitored, she saw the video that Ben saw of his mother, and she sang the song, and she's going to be the new mom.
And that's when Ben snaps. You'll never be my mommy. You're not a real woman.
She's a hologram. She's not a real person.
Yeah.
When my sister was scared, my dad held her. Can you hold us? Can you comfort us? No, you're not a real person. And it's a cheap TV effect, but Katie Sagal passing through the kids works in the movie, but again, it's still done in cheap TV special effect way.
But I think it's just the way her acting sells it.
Yeah.
Even though the effect is cheap, the way that her acting sells it of the you can't feel that, can you?
Katie Sagal's a great actress, and she makes this work. And especially that realization, that she can't be their mother. She can't do what a mother does. She cannot comfort these kids. For only being okay, granted, we've heard Katie Sagal's voice for the entire movie, but in that 10-15 minutes she's on screen as the evil hologram Pat, she's acting her heart out in these scenes.
I don't know. I feel kind of cheated a little bit because you can tell that she was on set for part of the time at least,
Mm-hmm.
because not all of her shots are blue screened in.
Mm-hmm.
But the house had the ability to project a hologram of the AI this entire time. And I kind of wish they'd have used that the whole time.
In a very Rosie the Robot from the Jetsons kind of way. That, she wakes up in the morning. Hello, Ben. How are you doing today? Hello, Angie. Good morning. I picked up your clothes today. And I think that's, just having, it's possibly that she was just only available for one day, maybe two, and that was it. Because the rest, it's her in a recording studio doing these lines. Maybe they could only afford her for a day.
Yeah, I mean, I understand all that, but if I'm just talking about what would make the movie better,
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there were probably all kinds of budget constraints, or she might have been working on other projects, etc., etc. But if I'm talking about what would make the movie just better,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be interesting if there had been a form of her that was rather neutral or more modern,
Mm-hmm.
like she looked more like a 1990s business secretary or a maid or something.
And then as the movie goes on, her look changes to more of that 1950s mom look.
Yeah, after Ben messes with the controls, she models herself after that 50s housewife sitcom aesthetic. Um, because just hearing the voice, it would have been interesting to see, like, the hologram dancing in the back with all the kids or something, like,
Yeah.
it it was interesting that at the end of the movie, after the hologram is defeated, we still see a virtual representation of her, which we never did before, but just confined to the screens on the walls.
So if it had been like Katie Seagal's face, or whoever they would have gotten in that case, if it had been a Holly from Red Dwarf situation where it's Katie Seagal or whoever they would have had doing those same lines, maybe in a more professional type of style of talking, like in the beginning of the movie, and then as the movie goes on, her personality and her digital avatar change more into that 1950s sitcom housewife before finally coming out as a full AI hologram or something. Because the whole hologram thing just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, we already know that the house has the ability to do some constructs because we see it playing with the dog
And the bully.
and the bully, and we see the holodeck kind of things around and stuff, So it would be kind of interesting if they'd have done a little more with that, of an avatar of Pat throughout the movie.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So that it doesn't just come out of nowhere at the end of the film.
Especially since you're putting Katie Seagal as the star of the movie, and all of the advertising of this movie, the picture that they use on Disney Plus of this movie is Katie Seagal in that 50s sitcom housewife attire. So it's not just it's like when you watch a movie and there's a big, there's the monster on the poster and you don't see the monster until the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And like I said, this could have been a great horror movie of the rogue AI House of the Future thing. And it's not, I mean, this isn't even the first time such a thing has been done. And you mentioned it before with the Ray Bradbury thing. But like I've seen it in other shows, like like Weird Science TV. I don't know if you remember the Weird Science TV show.
I do.
They had an episode about that. Mickey Mouse has a cartoon based off this House of the Future Rogue AI. The Simpsons did an episode about this that predates this movie. So it's like it's not a new concept, nor is it a Disney invented concept. And it could have been done a little bit better. Before we wrap up here, in looking for potential Disney Channel original movies that we could do for this podcast, both of us came across a few lists of, top Disney Channel original movies of all time lists. And on a lot of them, they put Smart House either as a top 5 or the top Disney Channel original movie. Why? It gets very close to reaching this movie's full potential and never reaches it. And I think a lot of it
is Katie Seagal.
It is Katie Seagal, but it's Katie Seagal as the hologram AI. It's that last 15 minutes of this movie. It's like if you ask someone what their favorite movie is and they'll tell you a bad movie, and it's just like the 5-minute scene in the one movie that they like, and that makes it their favorite movie. I think that's also the same thing here. It's that last 15 minutes of the movie where Katie Sagal goes all rogue, goes full villain. And if that was, and like you said, if that was more of the movie, this might be the best of the best. But because it's such a small aspect of a 80-minute TV movie, I don't get it. But if Smart House is the best of the Disney Channel original movies, oh boy, do we got some trouble coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no kidding.
Spoilers for future episodes. But for as the question, does this movie have the magic? There's potential in this movie. There's a lot of potential in this movie. The last 15 minutes of this movie has magic. But the rest of it kind of doesn't. Again, it's a very cookie cutter teenage coming of age movie with the, kid with mommy issues needs to learn to accept the stepmother in the new life, and it really drags. Again, for an 80-minute movie, this feels like I was watching a 3-hour movie.
Oh yeah, you got that right.
Up until that last 15 minutes. And it's Katie Sagal being Katie Sagal and showing how much of a badass she could be.
I'm going to agree with every word of that. The last bit of the movie shows what this movie could have been. I'm not saying you have to go all out like full gore horror or whatever, but this could have been like a really cute, occasionally Disney does try to do horror movie for kids. And
there's a lot of Disney Channel original movies that are Halloween themed that are horror for kids. So maybe we'll do those one day. I don't know.
But this could have been a less goofy horror for kids. This could have towed that, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark line?
Yes, definitely.
Where it was like, for kids, age appropriate, but legitimately spooky.
Goosebumps.
I thought that Are You Afraid of the Dark did it better, but yeah, I know some people who were like seriously into Goosebumps, and I respect that. But yeah, that kind of vibe,
Yeah.
Without, like, you didn't have to make it gory, you could have just made it eerie. Like, I just wanted a mommy figure, and now this is a nightmare.
You got what you wanted in the worst way. You wanted this house to be your mom. Now it is. Deal with it.
And there's always a little bit of the spooky, uncanny valley about AI.
I mean, that's why we're doing AI month. Yeah.
Yeah, and that also could have been a thing. And you could have made that entirely awesome and age appropriate, and Katie Sagal could have been amazing at that.
Yeah, like you said, her singing Hush Little Baby is freaky and it works.
They could have built that throughout the movie. Like, hey Pat, can you play the audio of my mom singing to go to sleep? And then eventually it's just like Pat singing it.
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that would have been so spooky. And it would have been age appropriate, because there's nothing inappropriate about that song,
Yeah. Or it could start with him watching the video of his mother singing that song, and then you hear Pat humming it.
Yeah.
In the background. And then it goes to the climax of her singing Hush Little Baby as she's causing a tornado in the house.
Yeah.
This could have been good.
Yeah, this could have been so excellent if you'd have leaned into the, like, horror aspect, but for kids, rather than, like, tried to make it the weird comedy movie for most of it, and then 15 minutes of horror at the end.
Disney has been in the job of remaking a lot of their movies, even remaking some of their Disney Channel original movies. They remade their first Disney Channel original movie was Under Wraps, which was a Halloween movie. They remade that. They did a remake of Adventures in Babysitting. They did a remake of Freaky Friday, but the stage musical version. So it's possible if they wanted to do a remake of Smart House, but actually lean in to those more horror elements of this last 15 minutes and make it a family friendly horror movie. Like you said, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, like Goosebumps, like Erie, Indiana, or what have you. So next week, we end, now that is the end of AI month, it is time to transition, and this movie was the nice transition, into the spooky season, Halloween time, as we are going into some good kid-friendly horror. Next week, we're going to get a little Tim Burton and a lot Henry Selick in James and the Giant Peach. Tim Burton did produce the movie, but yeah, this is Henry Selick's baby, the same director that did Nightmare Before Christmas, so you're going to get some good spooky elements in here. I'm looking forward to it next week to start off the spooky season. How about you, Keek?
I am looking forward to this. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. Looking forward to looking back on it.
Yeah, so come back next week for James and the Giant Peach, and we will talk to you all next time.
Bye!
Don't let the magic stop here. Join our conversations on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic. We are on the X formerly known as Twitter at Rewatch the Magic, and new episodes are available every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com. Remember, the magic is for everyone. It only stops if you let it. Podcasts are fun,
but there's work to be done.
We encourage you to get involved. Here are some organizations we support.
The American Civil Liberties Union fights for the constitutional rights of all Americans. Find them at aclu.org.
The National Network of Abortion Funds helps people find access to safe abortion services. Their site is abortionfunds.org.
The Trevor Project provides a 24/7 crisis helpline for LGBTQ youth and education services for schools on LGBTQ issues. They can be found at thetrevorproject.org.
Or find a way to help in your area.